history. Never been done before. Then look back many, many years ago and see what Tyler Perry did. This historic night.
Black icons in Hollywood. Tyler Perry is a creative force.
At the 25th anniversary of the BET Awards, he didn't just speak. He dropped a bombshell that lit the entertainment world on fire.
Have you ever wondered what happens when Hollywood's brightest star suddenly takes sides in a royal feud? Not on the big screen, not in a scripted show, but live on one of the most respected stages in entertainment. This is exactly what unfolded when Tyler Perry, a man known for turning silence into stories and struggles into triumphs, stepped forward and dropped words no one expected to hear. In a room filled with glitz, applause, and flashing lights, Perry's voice cut through the glamour like a shockwave. Instead of the usual polished praise, he lifted Prince William and Princess Catherine high, calling them the true future of the monarchy.
Royal couple's rise to the throne is still quite a ways off. Prince William is next in line to become the UK's ruler.
Then, almost in the same breath, he turned the spotlight in a very different direction toward Meghan Markle. His words weren't wrapped in politeness. They carried weight, sharp and unshakable, exposing tensions that many thought had long been buried. Was this a moment of truth, or the beginning of a bigger storm that could change royal and Hollywood ties forever? One thing is certain, Tyler Perry's bold speech has left both fans and critics questioning where loyalties truly lie. Stay with us, because what we're about to reveal will leave you stunned. Tyler Perry's unexpected words. When Tyler Perry walked onto the stage, the audience expected his usual charm, a mix of humor, warmth, and stories that leave people inspired. Perry, after all, is known for his ability to connect with audiences across cultures and generations. His speeches usually stay neutral, full of encouragement and wisdom, avoiding controversial takes.
Hero, this great man, that is Tyler Perry.
I would have prepared a speech, but this is a different time. I'm going through a few things.
But this time, something felt different. His tone carried a certain weight, and as he adjusted the microphone, it became clear he wasn't going to give just another safe Hollywood speech. He had something to say that would ripple far beyond the walls of that glamorous event. He began softly, by painting a picture of what true leadership looks like. He spoke about grace, dignity, service, and humility, values that have become rare in an era where celebrity culture often glorifies self-promotion. His words were measured, deliberate, and yet each one carried power. Slowly, almost seamlessly, he shifted the spotlight to Prince William and Princess Catherine. He didn't describe them as untouchable royals locked away in palaces, but instead as relatable human beings, parents, partners, and leaders who carry themselves with a quiet strength. The way Perry spoke made the room lean in. This wasn't flattery, it was recognition. Hollywood is a place that admires authenticity, and Perry was suggesting that William and Catherine embodied that authenticity in a way the world desperately craves. He highlighted Catherine's steady composure and William's sense of duty, noting that their influence didn't come from loud headlines or dramatic gestures, but from the way they consistently show up with grace. But then came the turn that no one expected. Like a well-crafted scene from one of his own films, Perry introduced contrast. His voice shifted slightly, taking on a sharper edge. Without naming anyone directly, he spoke about how some people chase attention instead of earning respect, and how others mistake fleeting fame for a lasting legacy. The message was subtle, yet unmistakable. The audience didn't need names. Everyone knew who he was talking about. His reference pointed clearly in the direction of Meghan Markle, someone Perry once supported publicly and even sheltered during her transition out of royal life. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Tyler Perry had once opened his home and extended his protection to Meghan and Harry when they stepped back from royal duties. Back then, he had been a vocal ally, defending them against the pressures of the institution. And yet here he was, years later, delivering a speech that drew a visible line between William and Catherine's dignified approach and Meghan's pursuit of the spotlight. That shift alone was enough to shock the audience. Gasps and murmurs filled the room, not because Perry was cruel, he never stooped to direct attacks, but because of the boldness of his message. It wasn't just about Meghan. It was about redefining what influence really means. Perry seemed to be saying that true power doesn't come from headlines or controversy. It comes from the ability to inspire trust, to lead quietly, and to maintain dignity even under fire. His speech instantly made headlines around the world. Journalists picked up on the subtext, commentators analyzed every word, and social media exploded with clips of the moment. Many were stunned that Perry, once a haven for Meghan, was now speaking in a way that distanced himself from her narrative. Some praised his courage for telling the truth that few in Hollywood dare to touch. Others criticized him, calling it a betrayal. But regardless of opinion, everyone agreed on one thing: Tyler Perry had changed the conversation. Yet beneath the surface of critique, Perry's real intention was clear. He was elevating William and Catherine. By choosing that moment, that stage, and those words, he reminded the world that legacy isn't built overnight. It isn't built on interviews or Netflix deals. It's built brick by brick through years of consistency, loyalty, and grace. Perry's message was as much a tribute as it was a warning. In the long run, it is character, not controversy, that defines history. And for William and Catherine, his words weren't just flattering, they were affirming. Hollywood, a place that thrives on reinvention and spectacle, had paused to honor two figures who represent something timeless: stability, dignity, and quiet strength. Perry's unexpected speech was more than commentary. It was a reminder of what true influence looks like in a noisy world. Tyler Perry's bold words in Hollywood. The atmosphere in the room was already buzzing with the kind of excitement only Hollywood can create. Lights flashed, whispers filled the air, and the sense of anticipation hung thick. But then everything changed the moment Tyler Perry walked onto the stage. Known for his commanding presence and the kind of honesty that cuts through the noise, Perry didn't bother with scripted charm or empty compliments. He had something on his mind, and from the way he carried himself, the audience knew immediately this was not going to be another predictable award show moment. With a steady voice and unshakable confidence, Perry began speaking. He didn't waste time flattering celebrities or highlighting the usual glitz and glamour. Instead, he did something rare in a place often obsessed with surface-level sparkle. He dug deeper. Perry used his platform to shine a light on something far more important: respect, dignity, and the kind of leadership that stands the test of time. When he mentioned Prince William and Catherine, the entire tone of the room shifted. His words weren't rehearsed, polished, or carefully scripted. They carried raw authenticity. He didn't just call them royals or talk about their titles. He referred to them as true symbols of stability in a chaotic world. Perry painted a vivid picture of a couple who had not only survived the relentless scrutiny of the media, but had done so with grace, loyalty, and quiet strength. As he described William and Catherine, it was as if the crowd saw them through his eyes, two people who had endured storms yet never let go of their values.
At state visits, walkabouts, and public appearances, Prince William and Princess Catherine are the picture of sophistication and royal protocol.
For a Hollywood audience accustomed to scandals, rivalries, and headlines driven by drama, hearing Perry applaud resilience instead of controversy felt refreshing. People weren't just clapping out of politeness. They leaned in, whispered to one another, and exchanged meaningful glances. His words resonated because they felt honest, grounded, and almost protective. And then came the shift. Without warning, Perry's tone sharpened. He didn't call Meghan Markle out by name at first, but the undertone was impossible to miss. He began addressing the culture of attention-seeking and the obsession with victimhood that had clouded the royal conversation in recent years. His voice grew more pointed as he reminded the audience that true leadership isn't about chasing cameras or crafting headlines. It's about responsibility, consistency, and the willingness to sacrifice personal gain for the greater good. The crowd reacted instantly. Some gasped, others broke into cheers, and a ripple of tension spread across the room. It was one of those moments where everyone knew exactly who he was talking about, even if he hadn't said it outright. The subtlety of his critique made it sting even more. Perry wasn't just offering a commentary, he was issuing a challenge, reminding everyone that character reveals itself not in grand speeches or carefully staged interviews, but in daily choices and actions. By contrasting William and Catherine's quiet resilience with Meghan's more controversial public narrative, Perry did what few in Hollywood dared to do. He blurred the line between storytelling and reality, using his influence to highlight the difference between duty and self-promotion. His message hit like a spark in dry wood, igniting conversations all around the room. In that moment, Perry elevated William and Catherine as the rightful symbols of the monarchy's future.
Princess Catherine, her marriage to Prince William is about more than love. It's also about teamwork. The future king has an enormous role to fill, as does the future queen consort, to prosper as the successors to the throne.
His praise wasn't about titles or crowns, it was about their ability to represent something greater than themselves. The applause that followed was different from the usual clapping at award shows. It was heavier, more thoughtful, almost as if the audience knew they had just witnessed something bold. Meghan Markle's shadow over the room. As the applause for Tyler Perry's words faded, the tension in the air only grew heavier. Everyone knew who his veiled remarks were about, and though he never once said her name directly at first, the shadow of Meghan Markle was impossible to ignore. It was almost as if her presence lingered in the room, even though she wasn't there. The Hollywood crowd, who once cheered Meghan as one of their own, now sat in stunned silence, realizing that Perry had flipped the narrative in front of their very eyes. For years, Meghan positioned herself as the voice of modern change within the monarchy. She framed her story as one of struggle, of being silenced, of battling against tradition, and at first, much of the world sympathized. She became a symbol for outsiders, someone willing to challenge the most ancient institution on earth. But the longer the spotlight stayed on her, the more people began to see cracks in the tale she told. The interviews, the documentaries, the endless headlines, it all seemed less like a story of survival and more like a quest for control of the narrative. What once felt inspiring slowly began to feel calculated. Tyler Perry's speech cut right through that carefully built image. By praising William and Catherine for their quiet duty and stability and contrasting it with attention-seeking and victimhood, Perry drew a clear line between what real leadership looks like and what it doesn't. Hollywood, a place that thrives on reinvention, suddenly saw Meghan in a different light, not as a heroine, but as someone who might have mistaken fame for influence. His words carried a truth that many had whispered in private, but never dared to say aloud. What made the moment even sharper was Perry's personal connection to Meghan and Harry. After all, he had once offered them his home as a sanctuary when they left the UK.
Famous personalities are seen befriending the embattled couple, including entertainment mogul Tyler Perry, who offered up his Beverly Hills mansion to Meghan and Harry.
He had been a supporter, even a friend. So when he spoke with such conviction, the message carried even more weight. If someone who had once sheltered Meghan was now hinting at disillusionment, then maybe the world had been too quick to believe her version of events. This wasn't the voice of an enemy, it was the voice of a former ally, and that made the criticism cut deeper. The reaction across the room told the whole story. Some people looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats, while others clapped louder than before, almost relieved to hear someone finally say what many had been thinking. A few glanced at each other nervously, unsure how to process the sudden shift. Cameras panned across the audience, capturing faces caught between shock, agreement, and quiet contemplation. Perry hadn't just spoken, he had exposed a divide, one that placed Meghan on one side and William and Catherine firmly on the other. Catherine's poised but powerful response. If Tyler Perry's words shook the room, it was Catherine's response, or rather, her lack of overt response, that etched the moment into history. The cameras immediately sought her out, zooming in to capture the Duchess, who had suddenly become the unspoken centerpiece of the evening. Every flicker of her expression, every blink of her eyes, carried the weight of interpretation. In that kind of environment, even a misplaced glance could spiral into headlines. Yet, as always, Catherine was prepared for the pressure. She didn't fidget or shift in her chair. She didn't raise an eyebrow, whisper to William, or flash a triumphant grin. Instead, she wore a soft, composed smile, one so subtle that it seemed almost timeless. It was the kind of smile that carried history within it, the poise of a woman who knew the cameras would dissect her every move, yet also knew that her silence would speak louder than anything she could ever say. The beauty of her reaction was that it wasn't reactionary at all. Catherine did not appear to revel in Meghan being subtly called out, nor did she project a sense of superiority. Her demeanor suggested something far more powerful: restraint. Restraint is a language few can master, but Catherine has perfected it. By refusing to let herself be drawn into drama, she revealed an elegance that transcends words. Guests in the hall felt it immediately. Some leaned toward one another, whispering, "That's why she's different." The murmur traveled quickly through the audience, a ripple of acknowledgement that Catherine had just given a silent masterclass. Journalists in the back scribbled furiously, noting how she turned a potentially awkward moment into an image of leadership. She didn't clap loudly. She didn't steal the spotlight. She simply embodied grace. Social media exploded as soon as the clip hit the airwaves. Within minutes, like Queen in Waiting, Grace Over Drama, and The Power of Silence began trending. Short clips of her composed smile flooded timelines. Comparisons to Meghan were unavoidable, but it wasn't about rivalry, it was about contrast. Meghan had long chosen fiery interviews, emotional monologues, and public accusations as her tools of influence. Catherine, in contrast, showed that quiet strength could be even more commanding. What stunned observers most was how much she communicated without saying anything. People online debated endlessly. Was that smile meant as an acknowledgement of Perry's remarks? Was it a gesture of gratitude? Or was it simply Catherine being Catherine, calm, dignified, unshaken? Whatever interpretation people chose, the conclusion was the same. She had won the moment. Even critics who had once accused her of being too passive had to admit that her silence had purpose. It wasn't weakness, it was strategy. In fact, it was a strategy Meghan never seemed to master. Catherine had built her reputation not by demanding attention, but by allowing her presence to earn it naturally. And in this instance, the world noticed the difference more than ever. What this means for the royals' future. The question now is simple, but the answer is anything but. What does this moment really mean for the future of the royal family? On the surface, it could be brushed off as just another glamorous Hollywood night, an evening where Tyler Perry decided to shine his spotlight on William and Catherine, while subtly closing the door on Meghan. Yet, when you pull back the curtain, it becomes clear that this was far more than applause and pretty speeches. It was a cultural ripple, one that might stretch into decades, shaping how royalty is seen across the world. For years, William and Catherine have been balancing on the tightrope of expectation. Every gown Catherine wears, every remark William makes, every family photo they release.
Kate Middleton and Prince William's middle child beamed for a new set of portraits released over the weekend.
It all gets magnified and studied like scripture. They aren't just a married couple raising 3 children. They represent the bridge between tradition and the modern era. So when Hollywood, a place obsessed with reinvention and celebrity, chooses to embrace them so warmly, it signals more than courtesy. It suggests a shift in perception. William and Catherine are no longer simply heirs to the crown of Britain. They are now icons with global legitimacy.
Prince and Princess of Wales will, I know, continue to inspire and lead our national conversations, helping to bring the marginal to the center ground.
And while their star rises, Meghan and Harry find themselves in an increasingly complex position. Their story once had all the ingredients of a fairy tale, an American actress breaking barriers to marry into the monarchy, a love story that captured imaginations worldwide. For a time, they owned the narrative. But as months turned into years, the shine dulled. Repeated interviews, tell-all documentaries, and a flood of headlines made their story feel less like resilience and more like performance. What made Tyler Perry's words sting even more was the personal history behind them. This wasn't a stranger speaking. This was a man who had once given Meghan and Harry shelter during their stormiest hour. For him to now distance himself sent a chilling message. The tide had shifted. And in Hollywood, where perception is everything, tides can change careers overnight. This shift goes beyond the glitz of celebrity circles. It speaks to legitimacy and power, the kind that doesn't just sit on a throne but exists in hearts and minds worldwide. William and Catherine being hailed in Hollywood isn't just about fame, it's about relatability. For younger generations who don't stay up to watch coronations or read centuries-old royal histories, seeing the entertainment capital of the world embrace the couple feels like a new kind of validation. It tells people outside Britain that these two aren't simply monarchs in waiting, they are leaders who resonate across cultures, ages, and borders. What makes it even more striking is the narrative battle. Meghan and Harry have spent years shaping their story with words through interviews, confessions, and books. They've controlled the microphone. William and Catherine, by contrast, have mastered the art of silence. They don't argue. They don't defend. They let time, grace, and action do the talking. And now, Tyler Perry's tribute suggests that silence may have been the smarter strategy all along. By stepping back from drama, they allowed the world to form its own conclusions, and Hollywood, it seems, has made theirs. Looking ahead, royal watchers are already whispering about the long-term impact. When King Charles eventually passes the crown, the eyes of the globe won't only be on Britain. Thanks to moments like this, audiences in America, Europe, and beyond will see William and Catherine as natural heirs, already tested and already embraced by global opinion. That approval makes the eventual transition smoother, more relatable, and more universally understood. Yet amid all this, there remains the human cost. For Meghan, hearing Tyler Perry, someone she once trusted, applaud her in-laws while hinting at her flaws must feel like a deep betrayal. For Harry, watching his brother and sister-in-law celebrate while he remains in the shadows must cut even deeper. Two brothers, who once walked side by side after their mother's death, now stand worlds apart. Two couples, once branded the Fab Four, now symbolize two entirely different futures. And there you have it. What a night, what a message, and what a turning point. Tyler Perry didn't just speak his truth. He gave voice to something that's been brewing quietly in Hollywood and beyond. His open support for William and Catherine as the rightful king and queen wasn't just about the monarchy. It was about values, dignity, and the power of staying true to who you are. At the same time, his bold call-out of Meghan showed the world that people are no longer afraid to separate reality from drama. But the real question now is, what comes next? Will this change how Hollywood treats the royals? Will Meghan finally understand the weight of the criticism? Or will she brush it off as noise? And most importantly, will this moment strengthen William and Catherine's standing not just in Britain, but across the globe? We may not have all the answers yet, but one thing is clear: this story is far from over, and the next chapter promises even more revelations. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments because your voice matters here. Until next time, stay tuned.